just quickly, I think this is a really important one. The wider your gap, I think you're going to realize that when you go back to work, there's a high likelihood that you will be interviewed and perhaps hired and managed by people who are younger than you. Age discrimination is out there. There's no question about it. But one of the strategies to avoid age discrimination is to make sure that when you go into an interview and the person across the desk from you is younger than you, that you go out of your way to express an eagerness, an excitement, and an openness to new things. So if you project onto that interviewer a comfort level of being managed by somebody younger than you, a comfort level of being interviewed by somebody younger than you, an openness to new ideas, an openness to a recognition that there are more than one way of doing things, you will project that comfort level onto the interviewer, and they're going to be okay with the fact that you're older than them. So that's a strategy that's, I think, really important to use. By 2025, 75% of the workforce will be millennials. So people ages 40 and younger. So I think that's a really important thing to recognize and to get comfortable with. And lastly, sometimes I call this my Debbie Downer slide, especially if you are a female and a female who is a minority. Career gaps are costly. They are the most costly for Hispanic women. The longer your gap, the more costly it is, not just because you don't have those benefits and those 401ks and those earnings and savings. It's costly because men tend to get promoted during the time that women leave the workforce. And so getting back in, you are at a disadvantage from both a pay perspective and often for what you're going to be considered qualified for in terms of type of work. That's the negative. But with negatives, there's always positives and there's always opportunities. And so what I would say is what we have found through our candidates, and on average, our candidates have about a 12-year career gap. Once you get back in, do not worry so much about that initial pay rate, because we find that our candidates with gaps tend to prove themselves and prove their value very quickly. And so while I kind of call it that bow and arrow effect, while they might have to take a step back in order to get back in, they will launch themselves forward very quickly. So your value, once you show your value, your pay, your responsibilities, your job title will adjust accordingly. So, don't undersell your value for sure, but also recognize that the longer your break, there are going to be some trade-offs at first.